The moment Claire stepped onto the plane, she knew it was going to be a long flight. She always hated traveling alone, but first class made it tolerable. Settling into her window seat, she took a deep breath and reminded herself that by morning, she'd be home, back to normal life, where she was in control. She adjusted her purse, placed her designer carry-on in the overhead compartment, and exhaled. But as soon as she looked up, she noticed him. A man, a tall, broad-shouldered man with sharp features, was taking the seat next to hers. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone completely unbothered by the world around him. His crisp, dark suit and polished shoes suggested he was no ordinary traveler. But it wasn't his attire that made Claire uneasy. It was something else, something she couldn't put her finger on. Her stomach twisted slightly. She glanced at the flight attendants, then at the other passengers settling into their seats. No one seemed to notice anything out of the ordinary. But Claire did. She shifted uncomfortably as the man stored his bag and took his seat. He pulled out a laptop, not even sparing her a glance. The flight hadn't even taken off yet, but she felt trapped. This isn't paranoia, Claire reassured herself. It's intuition. She pressed the call button for a flight attendant. Emily, a blonde woman in her early 30s, arrived with a polite smile. "Is everything okay, ma'am?" Claire hesitated, then leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "I don't mean to be difficult, but I'm feeling uneasy." She gestured subtly toward the man beside her. I just, I don't know if I feel comfortable sitting here." Emily's smile faltered, just for a second. "Uncomfortable how?" Claire hesitated again. She couldn't exactly say why she felt uneasy. The man hadn't done anything. He hadn't even spoken. But that was the problem. "It's just something about him," she said vaguely. "Could I switch seats?" Emily's gaze flicked toward the man, then back to Claire. Her posture stiffened slightly. "I'm afraid we're fully booked in first class, ma'am." Claire's stomach tightened. That wasn't the answer she wanted. "Maybe you could. Ask him to switch?" she pressed. "I'd really feel better." Emily's expression remained neutral, but something in her eyes had changed. A flicker of doubt. A second too long of a pause. Then, before Emily could respond, the man closed his laptop with a soft click. "You can say it directly," he said, voice calm but firm. Claire's throat went dry. He turned slightly, finally meeting her gaze. His eyes were steady, unreadable. "If you want me off this flight, just say so," he continued. "Go ahead. Make your case." Claire's pulse quickened. She hadn't expected him to react. Certainly not like this. Passengers nearby had started to take notice. A businessman across the aisle glanced over his newspaper. A young woman in row 3 subtly angled her phone, recording. Emily straightened her posture, glancing between them. "Sir," she said carefully, "there's no issue here, correct?" The man didn't answer right away. He let the silence stretch just long enough for discomfort to settle in the air. Then, slowly, he reached into his jacket pocket.
Claire's breath caught. For the briefest second, panic seized her chest. Then, in one smooth motion, the man pulled out a badge. A federal badge. FBI. Claire's world tilted. The gold emblem caught the overhead lights, making it unmistakable. The murmurs around them grew louder. The businessman let out a low chuckle. The young woman with the phone zoomed in. Claire's stomach dropped. This wasn't just embarrassment. This was about to become a disaster. And for the first time, Claire realized she had just made the worst mistake of her life. Claire didn't move, didn't blink. She just sat there, frozen, as the weight of what had just happened crashed down on her. The silence in the cabin stretched unbearably, thick with tension. People were still staring, some whispering, some smirking. And directly in front of her, Liam Conroy, the man she had just tried to have removed from the flight, remained completely still, except for the FBI badge in his hand. It gleamed under the cabin lights, an undeniable truth staring her in the face. Claire felt her throat go dry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Her mind scrambled for an explanation, an excuse, a way to backpedal. But there was no way out of this. She had accused a federal agent of being a threat. On camera. Liam's expression was unreadable. He wasn't angry. He wasn't smug. He just looked at her, waiting. Then, in a calm, steady voice, he asked, "Would you like to file an official complaint, ma'am?" The words hit like a slap. Claire's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Liam tilted his head slightly. "You said you felt uncomfortable. That's a serious allegation on a federal flight. If you believe I've done something inappropriate, I'd be happy to take your statement." Her stomach twisted violently. The power she'd held just moments ago was gone. People weren't looking at Liam as a threat anymore. They were looking at her. A few rows ahead, someone chuckled. "Oh, this is priceless," a man muttered, shaking his head. A young woman, phone still in hand, smirked as she zoomed in on Claire's face. She wasn't just recording anymore. She was waiting. Claire could feel it happening. The shift. A minute ago, she had controlled the narrative. Now, she was the villain. She forced herself to swallow. If she doubled down, if she insisted she still felt unsafe, she'd be accusing an FBI agent of being a danger. And that came with consequences. Her hands trembled in her lap. Slowly, she shook her head. "No," she croaked. "No complaint." Liam nodded once, as if he had expected that. Without another word, he closed his badge, tucked it back into his jacket, and reopened his laptop. And just like that, it was over. At least for him. For Claire, it was just beginning. A smattering of soft applause rippled through the cabin. Someone let out a low whistle. The businessman across the aisle smirked before returning to his newspaper. But Claire barely noticed them. Her attention was on the young woman still holding her phone. She wasn't recording anymore, but she was typing. Claire's pulse pounded in her ears. She wanted to disappear, to sink into her seat and pretend none of this had happened. But it had happened, and it had been seen and recorded. Her eyes darted around the cabin, searching for an ally, someone who might offer a sympathetic glance. But no one did. Even the flight attendant, Emily, the one who had been so patient with her, now had a different expression. She wasn't annoyed. She wasn't even angry. She was disappointed. Claire clenched her hands in her lap, forcing herself to stay composed. Maybe she could still control the damage. Maybe this wouldn't spread. Then a sharp chime broke the silence. Claire's head snapped toward the sound. The young woman smirked at her screen, tapped twice, and Claire knew. Her heart pounded as she stole a glance at the phone. The video was already uploaded, and the caption was simple: "White woman tries to remove black FBI agent from first class. Instantly regrets it." Her stomach dropped. The plane wasn't even in the air yet, and somehow she had already lost. At first, Claire told herself it wouldn't be that bad. Maybe no one would care. Maybe the video wouldn't spread. Then her phone vibrated. Once, twice, a third time. Her breath hitched. She didn't want to look, but her hands moved on their own, digging into her purse, fingers wrapping around the device. She unlocked it with shaky fingers. Messages from acquaintances, from family, from people she hadn't spoken to in years, each one a variation of the same thing. "Claire, is this you? Just saw a video. Please tell me this isn't real. Oh my God, what did you do?" Her vision blurred as she swiped open Twitter. It took less than a second. Her name was already trending. The video had been posted less than 5 minutes ago. And yet, it had already been viewed over 20,000 times. The comments were pouring in. Instant karma. She really thought she could get away with it? Hope she enjoys the internet roasting she's about to get. Claire's breath came in quick, shallow gasps. Her world wasn't just collapsing, it was burning. By the time the plane landed in Washington, D.C., the video had over 1 million views. Claire practically ran off the plane the moment the doors opened, ignoring the side glances and quiet murmurs. She just needed to get out. But as she stepped into the airport, her heart nearly stopped. Near baggage claim, a cluster of reporters had already gathered. A woman in a navy blazer held a microphone, reading from her phone. A cameraman beside her adjusted his lens. The now viral video shows an unidentified woman attempting to have an FBI agent removed from first class, citing discomfort. The clip has gained over 1 million views in just a few hours. Claire's stomach twisted. 1 million? She turned sharply, praying they hadn't seen her. But one of the reporters locked eyes with her. Her face lit up. Wait, that's her!" Claire spun on her heel. Panic surged through her veins. She needed to get out, now. She shoved through the crowd, ignoring the voices calling after her. She barely made it to the curb before her phone buzzed violently in her purse. A call from a number she recognized. Her hands trembled as she answered. "Hello?" A pause, then a clipped, cold voice. Ms. Bennett, this is Richard Calloway from the Oak Ridge Foundation. I assume you're aware of the situation? Her stomach sank. The Oak Ridge Foundation, the prestigious nonprofit she had been on the board of for years, an organization that prided itself on inclusivity and ethics. She already knew what this call was about. She swallowed hard. Richard, we're going to need you to step down, he interrupted. Immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. We'll be issuing a public statement by morning, he continued, his tone final. We expect your resignation before then. A sharp beep. He had hung up. Claire stared at the screen, her breath shallow. Her career? Gone. Her reputation? Shattered. And the worst part? No one cared about her explanation. They had seen the video, and the video was enough. She let out a shaky breath. This wasn't something she could control. This was something she had done to herself. And now, she had to live with it. Meanwhile, Liam Conroy had already moved on. By now, he was probably in a meeting, unbothered, untouched. Because for him, this had been just another Tuesday.